Feeling good, man. Feeling good out here in beautiful weather of Utah. It's amazing here. Of course, I come from South Carolina where we just got hit by the hurricane. A lot of outages, trees down. It's
Wow.
considered like a national, a disaster. But it's beautiful here. I'm rocking here in Utah. We're up at Park City, so a little bit higher than Salt Lake. We're getting ready to head down today to check in to UFC and get everything rolling, baby.
Wow. I didn't even think of the hurricane stuff. Everything okay as far as home and family and friends and everything?
Yeah, everything's good. We're more upper states, so we just got
Okay.
hit with crazy winds and storms. Not like the lower part of the state; they got smashed pretty hard.
Yeah.
But everybody back home is really good though, 100%.
That is very good to hear. Yeah, about Utah, obviously a lot of people talk about the elevation and what that does to the fight. How have you prepared for that, Stephen? I mean, is it just spending time in Utah a little bit longer than you might before a traditional fight? I mean, how do you prepare for the altitude and the challenges that that brings?
Yeah, man. I mean, I sleep in an altitude chamber, so
Wow.
back home. So I sleep in like about 10,000 feet, which is
Wow.
different than being in it all the time, but it helps you get acclimated. I
Is
was
that
supposed to
always?
fight
Do you always do that, or is that just for altitude fight?
just for no, always for every camp.
Wow.
So I got it when I was supposed to fight a guy named Brandon Thatch. This was years ago in Denver. And it was funny because I was supposed to fight on the card. Chris Weidman was supposed to fight on that card. He was supposed to fight Luke Rockhold the first time. But I was out there in New York training with Chris, and we both at the same time ended up tearing the cartilage in our ribs. Literally, same person we grappled with. It was the same guy. We tore our cartilage in our ribs. We couldn't fight. We had to get x-rays, MRIs. So we had to cancel that fight. But I had went and got that, bought an altitude chamber, been sleeping it in. I do 22,000 feet for an hour, you know, every night, 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. But it is different being out here all the time and training in higher altitude, which is one of the reasons why we're staying in Park City, which is a little higher than Salt Lake.
Wow.
So been out here since Wednesday, just getting acclimated and ready to rock and roll, man.
Does it make a real discernible difference? Can you feel it? I mean, when your heart starts pumping, can you tell that, hey, I'm not breathing as well as I might at sea level?
Yeah, 100%, man. Being out here, sleeping in it, just walking around, you can tell it. So, and that's one of the things, like, that's with the UFC and other athletes. Like the games have changed, and you got guys that will only train in Denver, Colorado. They move out to Denver, Colorado, where the altitude is high, and that way, their cardio is a lot better. Anywhere else they go, they're going to be so used to it. The red
Right.
blood cells that you develop in your body can carry more oxygen to your muscles living in high altitude and being in that high altitude. So that's another reason why I do it, to create those red blood cells as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Um, Buckley, obviously a guy, he's a powerful guy, good striker, highlight knockouts. We've seen what he's done in the past. What do you make of Joaquin Buckley as an opponent?
Man, tough guy. I mean, he fought at 185 and did well there. He dropped down to 170. He was like a small 185er, but he's a big 170. He's shorter than me, but he's thick. He's like a Tyron Woodley, kind of like a
Yeah.
big guy. And but he's more like a Mike Tyson style of a fighter. He covers the distance very quick. He will blast a double. If you saw his last few fights against that 6'5" guy, he ended up taking him down. But I do believe he's going to try to beat me at my own game. He's going to try to beat me striking. When he feels like he can't, that's when he's going to shoot for the leg and try to tie me up. But wherever the fight goes, I'll be ready for it, man.
Many opponents who have tried to outstrike you have learned the hard way that perhaps not the greatest idea to do that, to try that.
Yes. I mean, I guess that's a testament to my striking.
Yes,
I mean, you guys are
absolutely.
just like, you know what? I'd rather win the fight the most boring way possible with you,
Yeah.
because I don't want to let you up. Which, I mean, I guess that's a testament. I mean, obviously, I come from an era of specialists. Back in the day when I first started, you had the Anderson Silva, the strikers, you had the Matt Hughes, the wrestlers, you had the Damian Myers, just the grapplers. So you had the specialists, and now beginning these guys are good at everything. So I had to evolve. I got to get better at my grappling, got to get better at my jiu-jitsu, and I want to get a submission win, man, before my career is over with later on in the future, because I've only had one. This
Right.
was before I was in the UFC. So I don't have one in the UFC, so I got to get one, man. So you never know. I might throw a submission out this Saturday.
Right. Why not this? Right. Why not 307? That's it. That's so interesting you say that. I was thinking about something like that the other day. I remember like renting Blockbuster videos of like UFC 3 when I was a kid and just, like Tank Abbott, and it looked like he was plucked them out of a bar and was just brawling. And
Yeah.
then it was guys who were either strikers or wrestlers, but were specialists. And now you see fighters who are so well rounded. I
Oh
mean,
my goodness.
right? And
Yeah.
you've lived through a lot of that. You really have.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of come up to where, there was just specialists. And then you had, the two guys. There was a few guys at the time, but the most notable guys were, GSP, who was good
Yeah.
everywhere. Rory McDonald, who was good everywhere.
Yeah.
And then after that, like everybody was just, there was time where there are kids who started at a young age and now they're adults fighting in the UFC
Yeah.
in between those times. So they're good at everything, the grappling, the wrestling, the jujitsu. So yeah, man. I mean, if you come from an era of just specialists, you're gonna have to adapt to get better. So yeah, it's pretty cool to live through all that though. That's pretty,
Yeah,
to
really.
be there through that.
Yeah, I know I mean, it's like you're living history. What does it look like in like 20 years from now, Steve? I mean, do you think the fighters are is it so much more advanced, likely than fighters in the current day age?
I think so. I mean, you have some guys like the Izzies and the Alex Pereiras and the Anderson Silvas who will just always be legends. The John Jones he was another guy that was good at everything in a time where they were just specialists, which is
Yes.
why he dominated. But yeah, man, I think there is the evolution of now you're starting to see guys, you know, that you saw the era of when the low calf kick started to implement
Yeah.
in the UFC, right? And now it's a huge thing, to stop guys. Alex Pereira uses it all the time. But yeah, man, I mean, it's hard to see where it's going to go because usually there's a loop to things.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a loop
Yeah.
to things. And there for a little bit, you saw everybody who was good at everything, but now you're starting to see some of the specialists come back, like the Alex Pereira, who's just a
Yeah.
striking specialist, Izzy, who's just a striking specialist,
Yeah.
right? O'Malley, he's good at everywhere, but he's notably be known as a striking specialist. So, yeah, and you got the Bilals now, who are just
Yeah.
grappling maniacs. They just want
Yeah.
to take you down. So it does kind of like a loop, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to continue or that loop or everybody's just going to keep getting good at everything. But I feel like we're back at the specialist stage.
Right.
Yeah, they got the striking, they got jiu-jitsu, they got wrestling, but they kind of gravitate more towards a striking or grappling than the other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Do you like watching Pereira? I would think that
Oh,
you would enjoy watching him.
100%, man. How he knocks people out, that shows how good he is.
Yeah.
How he knocks everybody out with just the left hook. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how does he land that one punch? Everybody knows that's like his bread and butter,
Right.
but they still get hit by it. But that shows like how patient this guy is.
Yeah.
He waits for the opportunities to happen. He waits for his opponents to make mistakes. He's a very calm fighter, which is dangerous. When you see a guy very calm like that, it's like, oh, that's a dangerous guy. Like he's reading everything, right? He's adapting to everything. Love to watch him fight.
I mentioned like what the sport might look like in 20 years. You may still be fighting at this rate. You look so good still. I mean, I say as a guy who's 41, I say this. I mean, 41 years old, no sign of slowing down, still top 10 in the division. How you feeling, Stephen? And what are we thinking about the future?
I feel good, man. Dude, I will do this as long as my body will let me, or when my dad says I'm done. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because us fighters, we'll fight till we die.
Yeah.
So sometimes, it's kind of sad because a lot of guys out there in the UFC that are still in the UFC, they don't have that guy to tell them, all right, bro, you need to chill. You know what I mean? They got a bunch of yes men. There's a few guys that I can think off the top of my head that are like, all right, you guys need to hang it up. But for me, I don't take a ton of damage, but I knock on some wood. Hopefully I don't.
Here we go.
But I feel good, man. My mind's sharp. My reactions are still just as good. I feel like I'm improving everywhere. So the goal is just to go out there and perform the way I know I can perform. That's where I get, my last fight was Shot God. Even though I lost it, I still was happy with my performance because there was some things that I was working on in the gym that was working against Shot God. The takedowns, he had to work very hard to get me down. When he ended up did, obviously he capitalized on it, but I was happy with the fight because the things that I was working on was working during the fight. What I don't like is when I go out there and I don't perform the way I know I can perform.
Right.
And that could be a whole slew of things that causes that. But still, you know what I mean? If I go out there and do what I know I can do and I still lose, the guy deserved it. Right.
Right.
So that's my mindset.